and we'll do it live. We'll do it live. All right. So today's topic is how the Pope, Rome, the Vatican is little more than a front for Talmudic organizations, and that's a fact. That's a fact. And it got me. I got to thinking about this when I was doing my last video about the Clergy Plan and how the Clergy Plan was established by the Jesuit Freemasons. But I don't want to go too deep in the woods on that stuff today. I want to stick to the topic, which is that Pope Francis, Rome, the Vatican is basically just there as a vehicle, as an instrument of international bankers. And those international bankers were established in the 1800s by the Rothschild banking family with the help of the Jesuits. So there's been a long tradition of Jesuits and this banking mafia working together to control global finance and the markets. So now here's the thing. I notice when I watch the left-wing media, right? Like there's a lot of left-wing anti-war stuff that I've been watching for years. And they're interesting. You know, you got Jimmy Dore, you've got Judge Napolitano, and they're always interviewing these guys on the left. Danny Haiphong is always interviewing Scott Ritter. And so there's a whole network of people. There's some of them that are like some of these anti-Zionist Jews. They're over there criticizing what's going on in Israel. And then what they do, though, if you notice, what they do is, but then they're always siding with the refugees and the Muslims in Europe and in Ireland and in UK and America. And so, for instance, right now, because Trump is involved in stopping the some of these not refugees, but like people that are here on visas that are doing protests for Palestine here at the colleges and stuff. Some of them are from Turkey. Some of them are from different Muslim countries. So he's just having them arrested and sitting them out. This is driving some of the left-wing people crazy, right? Like, how can you do that? And even people like Catholic Nick Fuentes, who I like, he's talking about this too, saying, how dare Trump? He's only, and he's making a good point. Trump's going after the anti-Zionists, but nobody did anything when it was BLM attacking white people on behalf of Les Wexner and the Anti-Defamation League. So they're making good points. Nick Fuentes is making good point. Nick Fuentes, who's Catholic. But ultimately, here's the thing that Nick Fuentes doesn't understand, what a lot of Catholics don't understand. And I like Catholic tradition. I like traditional Christian ceremonies. I don't care for men wearing dresses or whatever they wear in the Catholic Church. I don't care for that. I think I would probably go more towards the Greek Orthodox or something like that. If I was going to go to a church, I think I'd probably prefer an Eastern Orthodox type of thing. I really, there's Catholic churches near me, and I notice it's a lot of, okay, so here's what I notice about it. It's a lot of race mixing. So kind of like the whole thing about the Catholic Church is race mixing. I'm not into race mixing. I don't know why people do that. I just think it's weird. I think it's a weird thing. And that's what all of America is about now too, right? All of America is about race mixing. And they want to make UK and London about race mixing. And they want to make everywhere in Europe about race mixing. I find it weird. And so I've been kind of trying to understand, like, why is this being pushed so much? It's being pushed by the Catholic Church. It's being pushed by the Vatican. Would it be pushed by the Vatican if the Vatican wasn't tied to international bankers? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not. It doesn't seem to be pushed by the Eastern Orthodox churches. The Eastern Orthodox churches usually have, like, they'll have a Coptic church. They'll have a Syrian church. They'll have a Lebanese church. They'll have a Greek church. They'll have a Russian church, a Ukrainian church, a Georgian church. So, like, the ethnicity will have its own church, right? Which seems more normal to me. That seems more normal. Now, in America, everything has to be race mixed. And then all the churches have to be race mixed. And even the Protestants do the race mixing. So like in America, everyone has to race mix. And then I've just been noticing this weird thing. It's like, whose ideology is this? Ultimately, this is the ideology of Rome and the Vatican and the Pope. And a lot of people see the race mixing and they blame the Jews, right? Because they see Jews involved in this and doing this. And Jews are involved in this and are doing this. So it's not like they're misidentifying Jews as being part of this thing. Jews are actively, heavily involved in this all the time. But here's the thing about the Vatican, though. Would the Vatican be doing this if it wasn't controlled by international bankers? And so when I'm looking at the Vatican now, you wouldn't believe the stuff that the Vatican's involved in. It's creepy. It's creepy, creepy, creepy stuff, right? And so one of the things that I've come to understand about the Jesuit order, which basically is the Vatican now, and became the Vatican when during the Jesuit wars, when the kings lost to the Jesuits, because the Jesuits had blind obedience to the Pope. So that was the winning order. That was what won the war in the 1800s, and that's what established Washington, D.C. And that's a big part of the reason why it won. Part of the reason why the Jesuits won is because they established Washington, D.C. in 1790-ish. Around the 1790s, it was the Jesuits who established Washington, D.C., where the CIA and the FBI and the Department of Justice is, and the Federal Reserve is. See, well, it's at New York and Washington, D.C., but it's obviously Washington, D.C. is the hub of power, of military power of the world, of financial power over the entire world. And that was established by the Jesuits. And that's why America when you think of the term progressive, okay, that's the Jesuits, that's the Catholic Church, that's the Vatican. You can't separate the Catholic Church from the Vatican. You can separate some Christian practices of the Catholics from the Vatican and the Pope and what he's doing, I guess. I mean, there's people that are part of the Catholic Church that maybe disagree with the Pope, whatever. The fact of the matter is, it's an organization. It has an agenda, and its agenda is very clear. That agenda is everything that was pushed by Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and everything, and all the progressive Republicans. They're all pushing the agenda coming out of the Vatican. And this is where you get ESG, BlackRock. They're pushing ESG. This is the Vatican. Now, you maybe you don't believe me. So it only took me a few minutes of very cursory investigation to find out some data about this. And the key term that you want to look up if you want to look into this yourself and understand how this really works is it's called inclusive capitalism. Inclusive capitalism. Inclusive capitalism. That's what the Vatican established as an organization back in 2012. But this has been a program they've had much longer than that. This is their program. Everything that you hear on Republican radio, when you're listening to Republican radio and it's Glenn Beck or it's Alex Jones or it's Dan Bongino, or it's whoever, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Buck Sexton's a Jesuit. When you're listening to, what's that, the young guy, the TPUSA guy, Charlie Kirk. When you're listening to Charlie Kirk, when you're listening to any of them, and they're talking about ESG and equitable capitalism, this is all coming out of the Vatican. This is all the stuff they say that they're against. If they're against the equity capitalism stuff, the ESG, the climate agenda, this is all coming out or through the Vatican. It's coming through the Vatican. Black Lives Matter was run by the Pope and the Vatican and the CIA and the FBI and the Department of Justice of the White House. Washington, D.C. was founded by the Pope. Washington, D.C. was founded by Bishop Carroll and the Pope, I don't know who the Pope was at the time. Bishop Carroll founded Georgetown University. Georgetown University is where they established Washington, D.C., right next door, right across the river there. First, they established Georgetown University. Then they established the Capitol right next to it. The Pentagon, the White House, the Congress, it's all right there. Georgetown University, the CIA. That was all established by the Catholic Church. Okay, that was established by. I know. See, you think, but Brian, we're the white Protestant Anglo-Saxons. You were, and then you attacked. Then you overthrew the King of England, and then you let the Jesuits set up a base in Washington, D.C. And since that time, you've progressively become something else. See, and that something else was all brought in by the Vatican and the Catholic Church and the Vatican and the Pope, and so I'm watching Jimmy Dore, right, and he's having all these left wingers on talking about how dare Trump go after these migrants that are here in our country, not migrants, but guests from other countries that are protesting the Israel-Palestine thing. And I sympathize with the Arabs that are getting exterminated by the Zionists. I never supported that. But here's the thing: I don't support Arabs being exterminated by Zionists, but I don't support Islam either, because none of it has anything to do with me. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I want it all. Why is all this? My question is, why is all this shit in my country in the first place? The reason it's here is because of the Vatican. The reason it's here is because of the Vatican. The reason it's being shipped into Ireland is because of the Vatican. The reason all these cheap slave workers are being shipped into the United States and displacing the American people is because of the Vatican. The Vatican's doing that. It's the Vatican. And the Vatican is run by international bankers. The Vatican is invested in everything that the Rothschilds are invested in, and everything Bill Gates is invested in. All the big pharmaceuticals. Okay, those are corporations that are run with the Vatican or in coordination with the Vatican. And all the international banking cartels that are run out of Switzerland and London are run in coordination with the Vatican. So it's an intrinsic part of the system. It's an intrinsic part of the system. And that's why they have a religion that they invented, which is commercial. It's a commercial religion. And that's why the memes that you see in every commercial and every advertisement about race mixing and homosexuality, that's the Vatican. That's the Vatican. That's their religion that they secularized into the commerce. So it's a merger of religion with commercialism. That's the Vatican. That's the Jesuit system. They've merged commercialism with their religion. So they secularized and commercialized their religion. And so every time you watch an advertisement on YouTube, Netflix, wherever, they're promoting a race mixed couple or something homosexual or some other perversion. That's the Vatican. That's their religion. That's the meme that you're supposed to receive. That's the morality. That's their morality that they're imposing on you. They think that that's morality. That's their religion. It's their religion. So here's this website. It's called Inclusive Capital. It's called the Council for Inclusive Capitalism. So I'll just read you a little bit of this. This is from December 10th, 2024, by the Council of Inclusive Capitalism. It says here, the Council for Inclusive Capitalism is invested in building a highly engaged, targeted, and growing network of innovative, inclusive capitalism practitioners and leaders. Okay, so political, inclusive capitalism practitioners and leaders. So they're going to develop this, right? The Council for Inclusive Capitalism has invested in building a highly engaged, targeted, and growing network of an innovative, inclusive capitalism practitioners and leaders whose accomplishments we promote as stories of inclusive capitalism in action. As 2024 comes to a close, we can say with confidence that our movement is strong and growing, having come a long way since the term inclusive capitalism was first brought to life 12 years ago. In 2012, a task force under the leadership of Dominic Barton of McKinsey and Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild of L. Rothschild, Hillary Clinton's best friend, I might add. Hillary Clinton's literal best friend. Look. Okay, you know who Marina Abramovic is? Yeah, well, so does this Rothschild lady. What's her name? Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. You know who Abraham Marina Abramovic is? The Satanist witch who does spirit cooking, weird blood rituals, satanic blood rituals. That's involved in Ukraine and involved in DC and involved in John Podesta and all the weird stuff with the kids. Right. That's who's running this with the Vatican. That's who's running with this with the Vatican. That's what you have to understand. You have to understand that that's what this is. Let's continue. Just think of John Podesta brutally raping little kids. That's Lady Lynn Rothschild. Just think of Media Matters. Remember Media Matters? Remember that dude, the Pizzagate guy, James Alefantis, and his boyfriend David Brock? Right. Well, they're totally tied into Lady Rothschild. They're totally tied in. They've got a whole cult. They've got this weird cult that they run out of Washington, D.C. in that area with Lady Rothschild and all these hardcore perverts that are into blood, pervert, torture, weird, creepy shit rituals, satanic rituals that involve children and weird stuff that I can't even say. And I don't want to talk about it. You know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, that's what this is. Those are the people running inclusive capitalism with the Vatican. So let's continue. Okay, so it says in 2012, a task force under the leadership of Dominic Barton McKenzie of McKenzie. McKenzie must be a region, probably somewhere in, I don't know where that is. I got to look that up. And Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild of L. Rothschild. Oh, McKenzie is probably the name of the company or corporation. Explored the reasons for why capitalism was under siege by the public, particularly young people. This study led to the decision by certain policymakers and investment and business leaders to create a global organization. This study led to the decision by certain policymakers and investment and business leaders to create a global organization dedicated to the reform of capitalism through innovative public policy, business and financial practices, and media outreach. Okay, that's your brainwashing. Those are your memes that are coming to you through the media channels, all coming through the Vatican. All the commercial enterprise coming through the Vatican. The Vatican supplies the meme. The Vatican's role in this operation is to provide this sense of morality to the capitalism, right? And that sense of morality has to do with race mixing and homosexuality and transgenderism. That is the thing that you will see in a little bit here. The study, okay, so the goal of the inclusive capitalism movement is to make our economies and societies fairer and stronger, or in the frame of Martin Luther King Jr., to bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. See, this is the role of the Vatican. The role of the Vatican in the capitalist system is to give it the color of morality. This is why they were pushing trans everything in the schools and trans everything in the sports. And this is why they're doing trans surgery. This is why they're doing, under the guise of morality of the Pope, under the guise of the morality of the Vatican, they are mutilating mentally ill women's breasts and cutting off penises and forming making like Frankenstein type of vaginas they're like, this is all happening under the guise of the false morality of the Pope of the Rome. of the Roman system, of the Vatican. This is the core ideology. This is the core ideology of the progressive system. This is the core ideology. This is the core ideology of the Democrat Party and the Republican progressives. All the progressive Republic. This is why it's all gone in this direction. It's all under the Vatican. It's all under the Vatican. The United States, Washington, D.C., was founded by the Jesuits. Okay? Let's continue. An overview of news media and mentions from then and today shows that the movement for inclusive capitalism has steadily grown, captured media attention, and continues to show admirable resilience. The work of inclusive capitalism has featured in more than 25,000 mainstream media articles, features from around the world. Whatever. I don't want to get into that. In 2020, the Council for Inclusive Capitalism was established in response to Pope Francis' call to action, uniting leaders managing 10.5 trillion in assets and 200 million workers across 163 countries. Let me read that to you again. In 2020, the Council for Inclusive Capitalism was established in response to Pope Francis, sorry, apostrophes at the end of the S there, to Pope Francis' call to action, uniting leaders managing $10.5 trillion in assets. Who do you think manages those assets? Who do you think manages those assets? BlackRock. All of these corporations associated with the World Economic Forum. Okay. Pope Francis called to action, uniting leaders managing 10.5 trillion in assets and 200 million workers across 163 countries. How do you think he did that? How do you think he united 200 million workers across 163 countries? How do you think that the Pope in Rome united not only 10.5 trillion in assets, but 200 million workers across 163 countries? How did he do that? How did he do that? How did he do that? Through the unions. Through the global system that he controls, the unions in 63 countries. Is that what it said? Whoa! No, I'm sorry. 163 countries. 163 countries. $10.5 trillion, 200 million workers, 163 countries. Is your country on that list? Is the United States of America on that list of those 163 countries? How much of that 10.5 trillion controlled by the Vatican is being used to screw you in America or in Canada or Europe or Australia, right? So why am I saying this? Because it's really important that people understand what's going on. It's really easy to get caught up in the Israel versus Palestine thing, and then everybody takes a side. I'm for the Jews. I'm for the Arabs, right? And so I'm for the Arabs. Stop killing the Arabs, you dirty Zionist. And so now we got to bring all the Arabs into Europe and America, and we got to protect them here because they're our allies now. And they're allied with the Pope, you see. And so are the Zionists allied with the Pope. They're both allied with the Pope. You're an idiot if you're falling into that trap. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're an idiot if you're falling into that trap. Jimmy Dore and all these people that are on all these left, I like them. I genuinely like them. Okay, I genuinely like Jimmy Dore. I genuinely like Scott Ritter. I genuinely like Judge Napolitano. But they're all working for the Vatican. They're all working for the Vatican. They're carrying out the agenda for the Vatican. Do they even know it? I don't know. E. Michael Jones, I like him. He's a Catholic. Does he criticize the Pope? I don't know. Maybe he does a little bit, but not really. In fact, I've noticed that he hides stuff about the Pope. Nick Fuentes. I like Nick Fuentes. I really, really do. I think he's very smart. he focuses exclusively on Jews, and he promotes Catholicism, Roman Catholicism, which means you're submitting to the Pope. That's the problem. The problem with that religion is that you're required to submit to the Pope. That's the problem. The Pope, the Vatican, and the people that run the whole thing. You got to understand, the Pope pushed the mystery injections. Remember the mystery injections? The words I'm not supposed to use if I want my YouTube account to stay live. The Pope is invested in all that with Bill Gates, which he is invested in all the poison, which may have killed some of your friends and family. Okay. That was all. Look, Dr. Fauci, Jesuit, CIA, Georgetown University. Who else pushed it? Sean Hannity. Where's his little CIA pen? Right? Washington, D.C. was founded by the Jesuits, by the Pope, by a bishop, by a Jesuit bishop. That's who founded D.C. D.C. is a Jesuit base. Let's continue with this a little bit here. The organization's members map their commitments to action against frameworks for change, including the SDGs. What does that mean? Hold on a second. What are SDGs? Let's figure this out before we go any further here. An SDG is Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. Now notice, this is in 2030 agenda for sustainable development adopted by all United Nations members in 2015. Right. Sustainable development goals. What does this mean for you? This means you're going to starve. You're not going to have oil. You're not going to have food. You're going to be flooded with migrants, and you're going to die. They're going to kill you. They're going to destroy your country. They're going to get rid of all the laws that protect you. They're going to flood your country with foreigners, and they're going to just turn everything back into wildlands. And that's it. That's the plan of the Vatican, is to kill you, and to make it all and to dress it all up in terms of morality. That this is just the moral thing to do, is for you to not have food and die. Right? That's just the moral thing to do, because you're polluting the earth. This is all run with the World Economic Forum, with the Rothschilds, with the Pope, through the Pope. The Pope gives it the angle of morality. It's inclusive capitalism. The word inclusive there is the moral buzzword. See, it's inclusive. It's for everyone. You're included. Oh, you think you're a transgender? You're included. You're Dave Rubin, and you you want to hear me talk about Dave Rubin again? You're Dave Rubin, and you purchase babies out of the womb for your homosexual lover, boyfriend, husband, whatever you want to call it. You're included, right? You're included in inclusive capitalism. Everyone's included. Now, if you're not a total degenerate, why would you want to be included? I don't want to be included in that. Keep me out of that. Keep me out of your inclusive capitalism. It's a death cult. But let's continue. Okay, so SDGs means Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, that's the Sustainable Development Goals, to have a World Sustainable Development Goals, which is, I don't know. What are the goals? It says here, call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, ensure that by 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity. Okay, so that's how it's masked in. So this is how they're masking it in morality, and the Pope is he's the one that sets the morality agenda. So he tells you what the morality is, and what the Pope says is moral is sodomy, and perversion, and taking your job, and basically making everything, equalizing everything, so you are equal to everybody else, as a way to get rid of you. End poverty means kill you. That's a code word for, see, if there's no poor people because they're all dead, then you've ended poverty. See, that's the UN program. But let me continue with this. All right, so continues a little bit, but here's the other before I do continue. Here's another important point. Notice how it said 200 million workers. Was that the amount? He's got 200 million workers across 163 countries. Got it. 200 million workers. Do you remember Black Lives Matter burning down cities, attacking people in the streets, blocking roadways, blocking cars, looting trucks? That was all backed by the Pope. That was all backed by the Vatican and the Jesuit order. Has the FBI done anything about that? No. Has the CIA done anything about that? No. Has the Department of Justice done anything about that in DC? No, because they were founded by the Pope. Donald Trump needs to know this. Donald Trump needs to know this. If the president of the United States doesn't figure this out, then we're not going to have a. This is why we don't have a country, because of this. This is why the judges are blocking him from deporting criminals from foreign countries right now, because of the Pope, because they work for the Pope, because this system that was put in progressively after we got rid of our king of England and our king of France. I'm French, racial, ethnically, and Dutch, and but the kings of Europe. After we got rid of the kings of Europe, we got this shit. We got this garbage. And this is how we got it. This is how we got it. This is how we got it. They replaced those kings of Europe with the Rothschilds and the banking houses. See, the kings were in charge of their treasuries. And so they'd get loans. They would get sometimes they would need a loan for a war or something. And the Rothschilds and other people were there to provide them that loan. But guess what? Guess what? If the king really, really didn't want to pay it back, he didn't have to, right? Because you're a banker, but you don't have an army and you don't have men with swords. You see what I mean? That was the problem. That was a big part of the problem. And so that was the problem they got rid of when they established the Jesuit order and put the central banks in charge of the populations, replacing the European kings. But let's continue. This collective approach is exemplified by the initiatives like the Just Transition Framework. Just meaning justice. The Just Transition Framework, developed through partnerships with BP, Boston Consulting Group, CalPERS, which is a California retirement program. Is that what that is? I mean, it's amazing how many people are tied into the Jesuits here that you would think are just normal organizations. Oh, CalPERS, or yeah, this is like some kind of, what is it? This is some kind of retirement thing. CalPERS. What is CalPERS? And CalPERS, California Public Employees Retirement System. Right. This is how pervasive this is. That's what I'm telling you. This is all organized through the Vatican. It's all organized through the Vatican. You think you live in a country, you think you live in an independent country. You don't. You think that all these corporations around you work for, you don't even know. You're like, it's kind of a mystery. Who do they work for? They work for the Vatican. They're all organized under the Vatican with the international bankers. The Vatican provides the structure as far as like what they're going, as far as the meme, the narrative, what they're pushing, what they're saying, what the agenda, what the narrative of the agenda is. It's all set forth by the Pope. The Pope sets the narrative for the corporations. Okay, that's how that works. Let's just okay. So beyond these milestones, advocate. Okay, so says CalPERS and others. Released in November 2021, the framework equips companies with tools to balance climate action with economic and social equity. There you go. Climate action, economic and social equity. What is social equity? That means white people being reduced in society in favor of blacks, or in favor of women, or in favor of transsexuals, So it's literally an attack on primarily white Caucasian men, particularly Christians, because the Muslim, the homosexual, the woman, the transgender will all be raised up in this society as the equal class above the white guy who, reads, believes in Jesus Christ. That's the Pope's political system. That's what that's who's doing it. The Pope. The Pope. Providing a roadmap for the business to navigate these challenges, the initiative reinforced the Council's leadership on climate and equity. This, in turn, contributed to the rising visibility of inclusive capitalism in the media, where its relevance as a solution to pressing global challenges continues to carve out its share of voice. Anyway, okay, here's another important part. Beyond these milestones, advocacy by think tanks such as the Milken Institute and influential figures like Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, Bill Clinton, and Pope Francis helped bring inclusive capitalism into the mainstream discourse. Okay, I'm not going to read you the rest of this article. I think you get the point. That's who runs this whole left progressive system. Bankers and the Pope and their agents, like Bill Clinton, a total degenerate, a total rapist, child molesting pervert, Bill Clinton. That's the network. It's Marina Abramovic. It's Bill Clinton. It's Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, who runs these weird pervert cults in Washington, D.C. with James Alefantis and David Brock. She runs them. She's part of this group that's like keeping them in power through all kinds of weird mechanisms that you would not believe, such as the arts, funding the arts in D.C. That James Alefantis is like on the board of one of these, like some kind of DC Art Institute thing. I don't know exactly what it is. So it's like a way to funnel money to these people. There's all kinds of weird shit going on. And it's all run with Lady Rothschild and the Rothschilds and pervert cults and the Vatican through DC and the CIA and it's a weird satanic freak show, pervert pedophile ring. Satanic Marina Abramovic, and she's all tied in now with what's happening in Ukraine because she's a Ukrainian, ethnically Ukrainian Jew. You see what I mean? This is who it is, and it's all run through the Vatican. So let's look at some of these corporations that they're talking about. It says, what do we do? Who are we? Some of the organizations. Let's look at the members first. Who are some of these members or leadership members? Who are the members? We've got a lot of these people I don't even know. So I don't know if this is going to help. Let's look at leadership. Who are some of the leaders of this? Leadership, we've got leadership. See if I notice it. See if I see anybody that I really notice. It just looks like it's kind of like any other corporation you see. Every corporation. Oh, there's Lady Rothschild there. Who else we got on here? Okay, yeah. Oh, Fiona Ma, California State Treasurer, really tied into California. Some other. So you know how like anytime you go to any of these corporations, it's race. It's okay. So every time you go to like a corporation, Fox News Corp, or this corp, or whatever. It doesn't matter what corporation it is. It's always like who are the leaderships? Who's leading the corporation? It's always like an Asian guy, an Asian woman, a black guy, a white guy, a woman. But it's always a race mixed thing, right? It's always race mixing. That's exactly what this looks like. So this is the Vatican system: race mixing, homosexuality, transgenderism. That's it. That's the agenda. That's the meme. That's the inclusivity that they're talking about. Inclusive capitalism, the Vatican, homosexuality, race mixing, and transgenderism. That's the agenda of the Pope, of the Catholic Church. Sorry, Catholics. I know you don't like that. I know that hurts. I know it does. It should hurt. It does hurt. The truth hurts. But the truth is what we worship, isn't it? Jesus Christ. Is Jesus Christ not the truth? Then that's what you have to dedicate your mind to, is the truth at all times, even when it hurts. Even when it hurts. Okay, so here, let's see if I notice anybody else on here that is comment. It's just an interracial, international. Oh, Mark Weinberger, okay, former global chairman and chief executive officer. So that's kind of what you see. And it's like Muslims, there's Africans, Muslims, Asians, people, women with, their Muslim beekeeper outfits on. It's the same shit. That's what I'm saying. This is the Catholic system. You think the Catholic system is there to force it, propagate Jesus Christ? It's not. The Catholic Church does not exist to propagate Jesus Christ. It exists to propagate whatever this is. This commercialized equity capitalism, equitable capitalism, inclusive capitalism, transgenderism, Dave Rubin, baby trafficking, Marina Abramovic, Hillary Clintonism, weird shit, think tanks, make trillions of dollars, control trillions of dollars, climate change, mRNA shots, forced vaccinations, early death, starvation. The same people doing everything. The left thinks that this is good because they don't realize who these people are. The right tends to look at this and gets creeped out, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. And that's why I'm here to point it out to you. You're not nearly creeped out enough. If you look at every corporation in America, it looks exactly like this corporation. Race mixed Africans, Asians, women, you see what I mean? Jewish people mixed in with everything else, and white guy with a black guy and a woman with a beekeeper outfit on who's a Muslim. See, that's the Jesuit system. That's the Vatican system. That's what the Pope is pushing. That's what he's pushing in Europe. That's Rome's plan for Europe. That's the problem. The problem is Rome. Let's continue. Let's go to what we do, and we will go to who we are and some of these organizations. I got to read out some of these organizations to you so you can see who these, like some of these organizations that are affiliated. So these are called organizations. It just says organizations. So these are affiliated organizations that somehow get money. I believe they get How do they get funding? I don't know. I don't know how they get funding, but I'll just point out some of them. Let's see. We got Accountability for Sustainability Project, African Venture and Philanthropy, Aid Organization Healthcare, AIDS. Here we go. AIDS United. AIDS United is a national organization dedicated to ending the HIV epidemic in the United States through strategic grant making. Keyword, grant making. Keyword, grant making. Capacity building and policy and advocacy work. Do you really need this kind of shit? Do you really need this kind of shit going on around you? Because it's the Vatican. That's the Vatican. And it's the Vatican and the mafia. That's Jew. I mean, the Rothschilds are Jewish, so the Jewish mafia and the Vatican pushing this filth, and garbage all the time. That's what they do. That's all they do. Let's continue. So AIDS United, that's one. Here's another bank, Altree Capital, Atlas Healthcare. So it's banks, healthcare. Banks, healthcare. Here's a mining one for mining sector. Bank. Here's another bank. Here's another healthcare one. Another thing about Africa. Insurance company, a UK insurance company. Another bank. A collective, software services. We partner with leaders to drive a highly accountable culture. Highly accountable culture through the lens of people, purpose, and profitability. Another bank, Philippines. Bangladesh Society, nonprofit, something. Chilean. Bid Connect USA educates something SMEs. I don't know that. Carbon emissions. Okay, so here's the thing about climate, carbon. Right? Why is the Pope involved in our fucking shit? Why is the Pope involved in our shit? I mean, Black Fox Global B Corp at Black Fox Global, we mobilize significant funding resource to help nonprofits. Okay. Building Markets, Brain Digital, Ford Foundation. Here's a Drive Equity, Build Resilience, Fight. Okay. Business Council for International Understanding. Business and Human Rights Resource Center. And by human rights, they mean fighting white people, fighting Christians, imposing sodomy, imposing race mixing. CALS TRS. I don't know. Oh, that's a greenhouse gas thing. Center for Political Accountability. Why would we need the Pope's? Why would we need a nonprofit sponsored with the Vatican about our political accountability, or any country in the world? Why would they want that? Why would you want the Pope involved in your politics or your any? What else we got? Climate, another climate thing. Here's an education thing. We've got another bank. Another bank. Agricultural food producers. It's all done for good. Democracy and culture. Why would you want a foundation? Democracy and Culture Foundation aims to make a liberal democracy more resilient through citizen engagement and better governance. Why would you want that shit in your country, sponsored by the Pope and the Rothschilds? Why would you want that? Why would anybody want that? Why wouldn't the government crack down on that and force them out? Like, why would we allow that? Why are we allowing this shit to destroy our country and our civilization? Everything's ruined here. California sucks. LA is a shithole. San Francisco is a shithole. San Diego's okay because the beaches are nice, but it could be a lot better, way better. There's a real bad drug problem down there, actually. It's pretty horrifying. I would say because of that, it's actually a shithole too. California sucks, dude. California was nice, and it just progressively got worse. Progressively being the key word. Let me read some of these other ones because you wouldn't believe what else is in here. Oh, my computer's going to screw up now. Closing these windows here. Okay, so am I still here? What's going on? Okay, yeah, I am. All right, so we've got promotes peace and harmony. That's Pakistan. Oh, here's a think tank. More unified world through expertise and languages. We've got European women on board. So this is a feminist thing. ESG Business Institute. Anytime you see the circular rainbow symbol, the circular rainbow colors in corporations, that's tied to the Vatican. Equal Playing Field Project is a local human and community development nonprofit organization in New Guinea relating to child protection and development, health, violence against women and girls. Those all sound like good things, but really, the Vatican? Do you know that what's her name? Mother Teresa? She go look up Mother Teresa and Robert Maxwell, the MI6 blackmail trafficker, kid trafficker, blackmailer. Just look up Robert Maxwell with Mother Teresa. Okay, just go look that up. Do an image search on Google. Just do an image search of Mother Teresa with Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell. Just do a Google search. See what you find. Do an image search. Go look at all the pictures of them together. Let's see. We've got here's the word equitable systems. Gender fair, here we go. Gender fair is a tool for consumers, employees, and investors to identify and support companies that share their expectations for equality. Ridiculous garbage. Yeah, so this is the global citizen capital, another gray matter. Here's another healthcare. Here's another bank. So banks, transgenders, banks, healthcare, banks, climate, banks, equality, equity. It's just all the same shit. It's all the same shit, all the same garbage that has totally destroyed Western civilization and got us to the point where we're at right now, which is trash. So, what's the point of this? The point is, this is all run by the Vatican. And you can go on and on and on all day long about all the crimes of the Jewish mafia, and that's fine. The Jewish mafia commits all types of crimes. That's true. They've been doing that since they formed the Jewish mafia. And you can go on and on about Mossad and Israel, and that's true. Mossad shouldn't be operating over here, and they are. Mossad is operating here, and Ben Shapiro, and they're all loyal to a foreign thing. That's all true. But guess what? Rome is operating in here too, and they've been operating here for a really long time. And they're running the unions. They're organizing violence. They're organizing terrorism against you in favor of this progressive agenda. The progressive agenda originates in Rome. The progressive agenda originates in Rome. It's tied to banking, climate, transgenderism, homosexuality, homos adopting kids. It's the whole operation originates out of Rome. Yes, they're working with the Jewish mafia. Yes, they're working with the Zionists and Ben Shapiro. It's all a big network. But understand, part of the problem is the people who see the Zionists then side with the Jesuit progressive left, and they just keep implementing that whole thing. That's the prison. In fact, so the prison is the Jesuits who are run by it's like basically the Rothschild banking houses with Rome. Rome is the conduit and the Rome and the whole Vatican network worldwide through their unions, through the workers' unions and the banks. So it's the bankers and the workers through Rome manage this whole system in Canada, in America, in South America, in Brazil, in Europe with the European Union. That's why they're flooding you with migrants. That's why they're stabbing you in the street. That's why they're kicking the white people out into the street to become homeless drug addicts, while giving the Muslims all the money and all the resources and all the housing and everything. That's who's doing it. That's their religion. That's their religion. Their religion is what you think of as what it's like. What their religion is it has to do with equality, which means not white people or anyone who believes in anything other than equality. It can be difficult to articulate, but it's definitely not what you think of as Christianity. I don't want to give you another lecture on Christianity right now. Happy to give you a lecture on that subject, but just not right this second. The way to understand the Jesuit order and the Catholic Church as it is today is think of secularizing or turning communism into a religion. Think of it's thought of as either way. You can either think of it you can think of it either as turning Karl Marx into a religion, or turning what the Jesuits think of Christianity into secularism. Karl Marx was a Jesuit. The whole Marxist revolution was now. If you notice, Karl Marx takes all the boxes, right? He's a Jesuit. He's Jewish. He's a communist. He's a Republican, right? He checks all the boxes. He's Jewish and he's a Jesuit and he's a Republican, and that's Karl Marx and that's Marxism. He's a central banker. Right. Car- Je- Marxism is about establishing a central bank. See, this is what nobody understands. Karl Marx is about establishing why would the communists want a central bank? Because the central bank is run by the bankers. See, we all think of Karl Marx wrote a book called Das Kapital, which talked about the evils of capitalism and how everything had to be made equal, right? But if you think about what his plan was, because here's the question you have to ask yourself: Are monarchs capitalists, or are bankers capitalists? Are central bankers capitalists, or are the monarchs capitalists? That's where the definitions get kind of confused, because at the time of Karl Marx, his enemies and the people that were being overthrown by the communists were the monarchs, the kings. I haven't read Das Kapital. I should probably read it. The thing is, I have no interest in reading it because it's such a stupid ideology. And I'll just finish with this. Any ideology that does not conform to natural law is doomed to failure. And it can persist for a really long time and harm a lot of people in the process. But that doesn't mean it's succeeding. Just because it's persisting doesn't mean it's succeeding. Unless the goal is to just destroy everything, then it's succeeding. Or makes certain people rich, then it's succeeding. It's succeeding for the people that are getting rich off of it. Karl Marx was a proponent of central banking. Karl Marx was a Jesuit. Karl Marx was Jewish. He was Jewish. He was a Jesuit. He was a proponent of central banking. He was a Republican revolutionary that was overthrowing kings. That's what you have to understand. That's the basis of the New World Order. That's what they're trying to perpetuate through the Vatican. This whole operation was set up by the Vatican. Washington, D.C. was established by a Jesuit Pope Carroll with Georgetown University. See, before they had a capital in Washington, D.C., they had land in Washington, D.C. owned by the Vatican, owned by Rome, owned by the Pope, owned by the Catholic Church in Maryland and Virginia. And they took that territory and made a Jesuit base. And that Jesuit base is called the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia. See, it's a Jesuit base. It's a Jesuit base. It exists for the sake of the Jesuit system, of the Vatican, of the Pope. It's a Jesuit base. That's why they got rid of the King of England, to establish a Jesuit base. That's why they got rid of the King of France, who was actually a Catholic. Why? Because they're bringing in a new order. That new order is a republican system with central banking. See, it's going to be based on republicanism, and then it's going to have a central bank issuing the currency. That's the system that they set up, and that banking system is going to be established by the bankers, and the bankers were the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds, the Warburgs, the Schiffs, they were the bankers of the Vatican, and they're the ones that then perpetuated the system of republicanism with the Jesuit order. And here we are. It just keeps going and going. And so what does this have to do with the laws that the founding fathers established? Nothing, because see, the founding fathers of America who wrote the US Constitution, they weren't Jesuits, actually. They were Freemasons. So they were part of a different group, but that group got used. That group got subverted by the Jesuits. It got used by the Jesuits. It got used to overthrow the kings. It got used to establish this new system because the Jesuits had access to the money in Rome. That was where the real power was, because that's where the real money was, because that money had been built up over a couple thousand years. And so that's what we got. We didn't get George Washington, and we didn't really get Thomas Jefferson or any of the rest of it. We got a little bit of that, but what we got hell of a lot more of is whatever this shit is from the Pope and the Rothschilds. That's what we got the bulk of. So we're hanging on to whatever Thomas Jefferson tried to leave us. We've got like we're hanging onto that by like a thread while being whipped in the head with a with an iron rod by the Rothschild Jesuit system, beating us to death with their race mixing, equality, religion mixing, enforcing equity and inclusion and transgenderism, which is basically the whole transhumanist agenda. Transhumanism, AI, the technology sector, that's all being run in coordination with the banks who are tied to the Vatican. And that's why they run. That's why they run San Francisco. That's why they run Sacramento. That's why they run San Jose, the tech valley, Silicon Valley, and that's why they run New York, and that's why they run Hollywood. And it's real easy to see all the Jews, but no one sees these other people that are literally that are really like outnumbering the Jews by a lot. Like 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 you could say, oh well, these Jews are doing this. Yeah, I know, I see that. Do you see these other people? Do you see this other shit? Like how many more of them there are than the Jews doing shit that's the same exact shit or worse or just as bad or worse. Right. That's what I'm talking about. That's all emanating out of the Catholic Church and the Jesuit order and the Pope. So I think we'll end off on that. Have a nice evening.